Hey, it's Dave Wyman from Wyman and Bob. Time for a little football 101, and I'm going to keep it short today. There was something defensively, going to focus on that because the defense had such a good game and the 17-13 loss that they had in Cincinnati. And, you know, going into the game, I honestly didn't think they were going to be able to win that game. And the reason why is because the Bengals are really good when you start diving into looking at their defense. Trey Hendrickson, Logan Wilson, the guy Hubbard, the other defensive end. I mean, all third-round draft choices, but really good players. They got great cover guys also. They had 6 interceptions coming in to this game, and they were 2-3, and they got 2 in the game from Geno. So that was going to be a tall task for them to get a win there. So I thought it was, if you will, an acceptable loss. The other thing is about the Bengals, I'd say keep your eye on them because they were 2-3 last year at this point, and they went on a 10-1 run. And that adds up to 16, by the way. There was one game that was canceled because of the Damar Hamlin thing. So I think that they're going to have a similar type of run, maybe go 10-2 the rest of the way, or and you know, I think it's just a good team. They're you know, Joe Burrow is a really good player, Jamar Chase, and for a guy like, you know, look at Trey Brown and what he did. That's the best combo as far as getting that interception. That's the best combination, quarterback and receiver in my mind in the NFL. And he was able to run with Jamar Chase and pick off Joe Burrow. So pretty impressive. The defense is where we're going to look at, and they gave up only 214 yards. And then, you know, when I looked at some of the film, the all-22 on the plane on the way back. There's 3 players that are just entirely different. They're just electric. One is Jamal Adams. I know he didn't make a whole bunch of plays, but some of the open field tackles that he makes, the way he is disruptive and just the way he plays, he is just a next level player. Another one, Quandre Diggs, and KJ Wright talked about getting him down in the box and allowing him to make more tackles, which I agree with, and I think they did that a couple of times because Julian Love can play deep, and Quandre just has a way of squaring up guys out in the open field, especially. And then the other guy is Devin Witherspoon. Guy knocked down 3 passes. His timing is fantastic. So I think, you know, really good things are coming for this defense. So speaking of that, let's take a look at Dre'mont Jones. And we talked to Jarran Reed the other day, and I brought up this sack that we're going to go through here. I said, that was unbelievable. I mean, you know, what'd you think about that? And he goes, you know, I would be surprised, but I've seen him do that in practice. So it just, there's no pass rush move here. Just a spoiler alert. It's just pure strength and explosion. So let's take a look at Dre'mont Jones. So he is lined up right there at defensive line, standing up, and you know they have this. It's interesting, this front where there's really only 2 defensive tackles in there. It's Jarran Reed and Dre'mont Jones, and he's standing up. And then you got your 2 outside backers here. That's what they like to use. And so, yeah, I mean, it looks like they're pretty light up front, but especially in a pass rush situation, you know, if you have a guy like this that can just bull rush and get home, it's you're going to have a lot of success. So here's Dre Jones on his rush. It's on the offensive guard here. And first of all, as you saw in the last clip, he started in a 2-point stance. So I think it's interesting because you can see much better because the D lineman down in a 3-point stance, you're kind of looking up the top of your eyes. Sometimes your helmet gets in the way. It's hard to see. And so for him, he can see everything in a 2-point stance. The problem is, you know, you got to get leverage. You got to try to get under the player that you're going across. You have a better chance of doing that out of a 3-point stance, and he does it from a 2-point stance. And you can see right here that his helmet level is definitely lower than the offensive lineman. And like I said, guy, 325 pounds, I believe. And here's Dre right here. You can see that even more where he has got his head underneath the guard. And, you know, I think in that guy's mind right now, if there was a thought bubble coming up, it would say, uh-oh, because this is a big, powerful guy. Now, Dre'mont Jones, not that big. He's like 280, 85 pounds maybe, and he is just incredibly powerful. Now, if you look real closely here, you can see he is finishing the job right here. The offensive lineman is pretty much on his butt, and he has just just physically dominated this guy. That's the one thing I miss about football, by the way. When you do, now there was a couple of times where I was on the wrong end of it, but when you get under somebody, and it's almost like when you hit a baseball really hard, you don't really feel it. That's kind of how a hit like this is. And just, I miss that feeling. And Dre'mont Jones, I'm sure, was all fired up about this. And by the way, he played with Joe Burrow at Ohio State. And Joe Burrow transferred to LSU. So when we talked to him about Joe Burrow, I said, you know, what do you think about that guy? And he goes, he's got some white boy swag. I thought that was really funny, but you could see he respects him. They chatted afterwards. I was watching the post game, and he definitely respects him. But having that one hanging on your mantle is pretty good. When you sack Joe Burrow, that's a good one. Now you can see the carnage that has taken place here. There is Dre'mont Jones just laying into Joe Burrow. And the other thing you can see is the offensive lineman on the ground just watching it from his butt. So I just think this is one of those plays that I love about football, that you can be the fastest guy in the world, you can have all these complicated offenses and defenses and things like that, but every once in a while it just breaks down to, I'm quicker and I'm more powerful than you are, in this instance anyway. And I just love that. And I think this is something to build on. This defense, I think, is going places. I mentioned those three guys and how good they are. Bobby and Jordan are playing really, really well. Jarran Reed has been a godsend for this defense. So, with Dre'mont Jones making these kinds of plays, and by the way, I think he was the guy they wanted instead of Shelby Harris last year in that trade for Russell Wilson. And they weren't willing to give up Dre'mont Jones. So Seahawks got him in free agency. So he's got 2 sacks, 13 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. He's playing really well. And the guys up front are playing really well. But I think Trey Brown, also want to mention him once again. There's 5, 6, 7 players on this defense that are just playing really well. And we haven't even really seen Reek Woolen get going yet. Kobe Bryant has been hurt, but I think there's some special things coming for this defense.